I think we're ready to get started. Call this meeting to order, and we'll start with roll call.
Ms. Hedlund is excused. Mr. Jacobson is excused. Ms. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Makowski is excused. Mr. Morrison?
Here.
Ms. Orcherton?
Orcherton.
Orcherton? Mr. Patterson?
Here.
Ms. Salmon?
Here?
Ms. Waller?
Okay. We have one change to the agenda. Patricia Avery is not going to be here today. She will do her presentation later. Next would be approval of minutes of the previous meeting. Did anybody have any questions or changes to those minutes? If not, would someone like to move that we approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of approving minutes?
Aye.
Okay. There's no public input, so we're going to go ahead and do an introduction. One of our new members, Janelle, I'm sorry?
Orcherton.
Orcherson. Orcherson. It's right on there.
Sounds
Okay.
just like it looks. Okay. Yep.
Pauline, do you want to say hello?
Well, I didn't realize it's so loud. So welcome, Janelle. It's your first meeting, so we're really happy to have you. And if you like, you can say a little something about yourself, maybe?
Well, I just got my master's at the university, so I'm happily on sort of summer schedule, and I'm actually playing at a musical in Sullivan for the next couple weeks. So keeping busy, but happy to be starting with you guys.
So your master's in music?
In music, yep. hmm
Yeah, and you specialize in jazz.
In jazz performance, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, we're very happy to have you here. I hope you'll enjoy it and find it interesting. Okay, we're going to move on to the grant presentation by Jeff Glassman.
It's always a shock to face an array of people like this. So
It's an odd
I'm
arrangement.
kind of shy, actually. And it's the distance, you know. It's like, I don't know if I'll ever get used to that. I should use this, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I have, and you have, I guess, is the evaluation that I made, and I hope everything is adequate and understandable. It's hard to summarize, but I guess the summary is that the grant made a huge difference in my life for the months in the fall and the winter and even till now, in that I was able to take half the money and update and create equipment for performances that I give, and that feed into the larger project between Lisa Fay and myself, which is called Elegant Complexity. We do concert-like presentations of compositions that are woven together into one unified whole, which is the elegant complexity idea. And what I've worked on with this grant and through these past 5 or 6 months is redoing and then adding to a number of pieces that will be part of Elegant Complexity. And each one also harbors an experiment in performing. So each one contains a challenge that we don't really know how to manage until we confront it in a composition and then practice it and then learn what its peculiarities are and learn how to perform it. And what I have are samples of each one of those pieces as they were, these feeder pieces, as they were performed in November in Korea, South Korea. I think, well, if there's anything in the evaluation that you would like me to elaborate on, or that you have questions or curiosities about, I would be really happy to respond to them. It's kind of a complicated set of activities that went into all of this. And And the web-like nature of the way Lisa and I work is intentional, and it's developed over a long period of time. Like, she and I have been working together in Urbana, living and working in Urbana for 25 years. And then I've been doing this sort of work in Urbana for 45 years. So, I mean, this is where I'm at, even though I'm afraid of the podium here. And it's a very consistent, slowly building body of work. So one of the branches of this work that ties in serendipitously to this Elegant Complexity grant, just to give an example of how funnily these things work, is that I went to Korea with the pieces that were equipped through this grant and with some amount of working time in my artist fee that allowed me to devote the time to the preparation of this. And I went to Korea to perform those pieces, but since I was there, I also did a week of work with middle school kids at the place that I mentioned here called the Haja Center. The full name in English is Seoul Youth Factory for Alternative Culture. And the factory, I think it means workshop. You know, it's not like a factory, like they're not making things. But, well, they are making things, but they're not material things. Well, no, even that isn't true. But it's not a factory. Lisa and I, for 6 times now, have done residencies at Haja Center, which is the nickname. And each time we work with kids and we present our ideas and ways of putting together pieces, and they try things out, and then they create a show and perform it publicly, all within the space of about a week. And that's the same thing that we also got a grant for from UPA called Theater of the Hummingbird that we've done twice now in Urbana. And what we're building up to is to make a connection between the kids we work with at Haja Center and kids in Urbana, so that they're both part of Theater of the Hummingbird. So while I was there on this grant, Elegant Complexity, I also spent a week working with the kids at Haja Center, and they put on a show, which kind of ties back to Urbana in various ways. There are a lot of people we know in Korea who know the name Urbana, not just from the university either. And then another kind of serendipitous tie-in was that, and I wrote about it a little bit here, in order to create a new piece specifically for Korea, using a device that I purchased and created with the help of this grant, I needed some voices speaking Korean. So I got a hold of the Korean Student Association, and there were 5 students who worked with me, I think a total of maybe 6 times, 7 times. They were really gracious about it. And I wrote a script. They translated the whole thing, which is no small feat. And I directed them, even though I couldn't understand what they were actually saying in Korean, but I trusted them, and made a recording using a microphone that I got through the grant and a speaker that I got through the grant. And I made this new piece that I performed in Korea, where I, among other things, created the illusion that I was speaking perfectly fluent Korean. And I think I might have actually done that, but I'm not sure. I can't. Which I'll show you an example of. And that's another kind of roundabout way. So now I'm familiar with some of the Korean students in town, and there's this growing Seoul, Korea, Urbana, Illinois connection that's always growing. And I think maybe, I'm not sure how much time I have left, but I have about 6 or 7 minutes of video examples that I can show you.
Maybe just a small chunk of that instead of the whole video.
Yeah, like about
That's okay.
2 or 3 minutes?
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay, then I'll jump ahead quickly through it.
Okay.
So, and if you have any questions, please let me know. It's this comes from a combined show with a artist in Korea that Lisa and I are collaborating with. As of this trip, Eugene Gyu, who's a well-known mime artist in Korea and the director of the Chuncheon International Mime Festival. In Korea, Lisa and I are mostly considered mimes. Here, I wouldn't say that. So let me show you in the order that they come in the performance. I combined some of my solos that come from me and Lisa with some of his solos. And then the main part of the project was a collaborative piece that this is the first version of, which I'll show you at the end. And we'll continue to work on that piece. He might come here at some point. So, let me jump to here. This is one piece that I do where I emerge from, how do you get this started? Okay. Yep. This is the opening of the show. So I was inside the suitcase for about 10 minutes while the audience came in, and I survived. And it goes on from there. It's about a 20-minute piece, but I'm going to skip ahead to a little bit here. So this guy slowly emerges from and gets dressed, living out of a suitcase, literally. He has coffee and all. It's kind of slow moving at this point, so I better skip. But eventually, he really makes himself at home here. It doesn't matter that anybody's watching. And the piece is called The Alarmist. That's because, like I think you'll see here, the various alarms that go off. Eventually you learn that he's actually sounding the alarm, even though he looks like he's wondering where it comes from. And after he gets dressed, you see, he packs things up and recites actually a poem, a very complicated poem that was written by Michael Holloway, who's a local poet, who's also lived here longer than I have, and he's published several books. He doesn't promote himself, and nobody else promotes him. He's kind of a hidden treasure in Urbana.
Awakening eyes melt into loving. Dead pain could thin to flash fear of loving. Awakening bridges what
And then
you sometimes tend to
he gets cut off and leaves. I should probably, let's see, I can give two little 15-second examples and then show you the collaboration, part of the collaboration piece. And you should cut me off if I take too long, because I'm not too good at keeping track of time. Okay. Here's the grant, part of the grant money went into refurbishing and redoing that suitcase so it worked well. Another piece is this one where the grant money paid for an aluminum stand. This had to be constructed, this hat stand, coat stand, which works really well now. I'm not sure how this thing works. And let me show you what that looks like a little bit. Jump ahead. And then there's a whole text that Lisa Fay created. She created this piece.
way past due, do by, consequent possibilities insinuated, by being neither here nor there, oscillating, as it were, at an extreme rate between neither this nor that. On passing, one might look up and say to themselves, no one to blame but himself. And I, knowing the better and the worse, move to shake hands. Extend one oscillation just one smidgen more. Remember that incident?
Okay, and then a little bit from, so in that first piece, the challenge was to work inside the confines of that suitcase. And the metaphor was a person who carries themselves, they're their own baggage in a sense, but also someone whose home is nowhere, it's in the suitcase, and he emerges to deliver a highly structured, complex poem to people, and all the time he's sounding the alarm. So there are various ramifications of what the metaphor stands for and how people relate to it. And this one, a person is hung up, literally, and they can't go anywhere. They can only go left and right, and neither of those alternatives are satisfying. They're stuck in the middle. They need a third alternative, which they don't have, so they remain hung up and stuck. And then this one, there, is, I'll just give you a little bit of, it's also a guy who's on the move, who kind of, you get let in on the fact that he was in Urbana, Illinois. He wanted to go to Korea, to move to Korea, but he didn't speak Korean. So he came to the Korean students and asked them if they can teach him Korean in a couple weeks. And they said, no, we can't, that's impossible. Well, what we could do is we could fix you up with a device that'll take care of the language problem when you get to Korea. So this is the device on top of my head. Supposedly the microphone is live, but it's actually not, and everything is recorded. I hope you can get a sense of it.
눈, 다른 쪽 눈, 검지, 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 손가락.
The device gives him the Korean word for anything that he points the microphone at.
러시아 보자. 코, 콧구멍, 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 콧구멍. 혓바닥, 어깨, 천장, 치아. 두 번째 기능. 영어로 사물의 이름을 알려줍니다. Function 2. English. Names of objects in English. Please point the wand at the entity you wish to name in English. Hippopotamus. Rhinoceros. Quagmire. Bilious. Aluminum.
It doesn't always work so well.
Salsa.
And then the last
Amigo.
piece,
Adelante. Espacio exterior.
that's about a 15-minute piece. And then this is the collaboration piece, and then I better stop. This is Yu Jing-gyu. He's about my age, so it was an interesting match. And the piece is called precariat, which is a term used for people who are kind of pushed out of the system of capitalist economic activity, who are kind of expendable according to the mainstream flow of wealth. They're no longer needed. They're precarious. Their existence is precarious. And we followed through that theme in the relation between this guy on the left, Yu Jing-gyu, and this guy who's largely unidentified. The grant went into the bodysuit and then all the wrapping for this costume. I'll give you a little bit here. And for various other props. This cloth, which is a 25-meter long cloth that was the kind of platform that all the action took place on. We never left that cloth. There's no dialogue. And it's about a half-an-hour piece. The development is that this person who's mistreated by that person eventually catches on that not only is the game not really a game because the rules are undeterminable and controlled by the figure wrapped in cloth, but the figure doesn't actually see. He doesn't really know what he's doing. And he's coming to the end of the pathway, literally. The cloth ends, and he's starting to realize, this guy is starting to realize that there's an end to it, and he also realizes there's an end to it, and that becomes the end of the piece, eventually. Like here, and he's going to turn the game around. And there's the end. That's the end of the line for this particular system that's represented in white. You can't hear him. But he says game over in Korean. And then I'll just cut to the very end. Oh, well, that's too far in the end. Well, the guy in white comes to the end and realizes that's it. The game is over, really. And then this is the end of the end of the piece. We're just taking bows. That's. Lisa couldn't go on this trip, but she participated by Skype and also by setting parameters for this collaboration. Like her idea was this roll of white that we stay on, and various other ideas that she fed in, and then we did Skype back and forth. I went way over time, I think.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
It's your work. You're enthusiastic.
I would show you the whole thing if I could. Yes, thank you very much, and thank you. You know, the grant made it possible, really. And like I explained here, it was the basis for getting other funding as well. And the gracious hosting of the Krannert Center, they have us as artists in residence there, and we can rehearse and do other things there.
That's
so
great.
It all ties together.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to have the monthly progress report.
Suitcase idea is the new tourist class flying.
There you go.
Takes up less room.
There you go.
Airplane.
It's bigger than some seats outside.
So I'll start the June monthly progress report with Artists at the Corridor. So this exhibition actually has ended, so we're just waiting for the artists to pick up the artworks. And the next exhibition by Judy Lee will start on Wednesday, and it goes for 3 months. And work on the right is Judy's. She does a lot of storybook illustrations and other things, also some window installations actually, but she's been on Art at the Market several times, and I think it's funny that her work kind of mirrors Peggy's work here. The second Art at the Market was this past Saturday, and I wasn't there because I was on vacation, but Morgan was there, and it was really hot that day. But we had a pretty good turnout. The Noble Print Club, which is the printmaking club at the university, led a printmaking workshop, and it was really popular. They help kids and adults too make letterpress prints, and people could bring their work home. And Matt and Tom Torino were the musicians on Saturday, so they perform in this picture. And next month we will have, I believe, Carissa McDermott, who will lead like a rock decorating workshop. And I'm not sure who the musician is, but I think it's Bones Jackson Harmony. I'm almost positive. For the Urbana Sculpture Project, as I mentioned, thank you, Ginny and Jack Waller, for your gift. And PAL usually has their selection meeting around this time, and that's about when we select the sculptures for the next term. excuse me. But they actually have postponed this selection meeting, so it won't happen until mid-July because they're giving more time for applicants to submit their applications. But I will keep you updated. And usually after they make the selections, they will have this big celebration where, their patrons are invited, and then the public is, invited to make donations or to purchase or lease the sculptures.
Yeah, and we are going to talk about it once we've had a chance to see what's available.
Yeah.
Yes, at one of the meetings. So.
For Art Now, in the May episode, we had Travis Hocutt, and for this month's episode, we had Caroline Goldsmith. And this episode has been promoted on social media and also on Smile Politely as an online ad. The Urbana Art Expo guidelines and application form have been published. We have a blog. It's urbanaartexpo.com, and so people who go here can click on the Apply Now button, and they will be led to the application form. And we have also promoted this on social media. This is our paid Facebook ad. And for our marketing, we have, for our social media keeps growing. Our Facebook now has 1,173 fans. Twitter has 1,732 followers, and we have 221 people on Instagram. And this is the Smile Politely ad currently on. It promotes the Art Now episode featuring Caroline Goldsmith. And that's the end of the staff presentation.
Okay. All right. Next for discussion would be the request that we received to perhaps give money for a Royer plaque for one of the 3 projects that were suggested. My feeling on this, my stand on this, is that we had already approved the budget before this request even came to us. And there was sufficient time. There was a month before the meeting when everyone was told what the budget would be and what it was going to be used for. And so I really don't feel that we can address this request now. If someone wanted to bring it up for the following year's budget, we could certainly do that. But I don't think it's appropriate to do it at this point, especially since the City Council has approved our budget already. Does anybody have any questions or want to ask me anything about that? Or
Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
okay.
So maybe, if it's okay, could we maybe just share a little bit history about Royer and what the Public Arts Commission and program have done in terms of Royer, just for our newer members to learn?
Let's see if I can remember the history. I do know that at one point we did support the plaque that's in front of the county courthouse, and we did pay for that one. I cannot remember whether we've done further ones or not, to tell you the truth. I don't think so.
I think that's the only one.
And that was quite a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. And Royer is quite a famous architect who lived in Urbana for some time, so some of the buildings downtown and other places in Urbana are designed by him. So the plaques are placed in his on his buildings to commemorate his work, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the plaques have been privately funded, and they just placed one this weekend, right?
Right.
For the Unitarian Church.
Right.
Was
Yeah.
placed, and I believe the church funded that one, if I'm not mistaken.
In my opinion, I think if it gets privately funded, that's just the best scenario because, well, we don't have much room in our budget, even if we haven't approved it yet. The plaques are quite expensive at 1,800 something, I think,
Yeah.
per plaque.
Yeah.
And that's, our budget for the whole art expo, pretty much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I also think that if someone wanted to promote Royer, I think that there are probably less expensive ways it could be done. It could be done, TV shows could be done through UPTV.
Mhm.
You could have QR codes maybe on buildings if those buildings were willing to have them, where you could have a website and talk about the history of the buildings. Or you could just have plain old-fashioned guided walking tours if you wanted to do something promoting, and all of those would be a lot cheaper than paying for a plaque. So.
And if there's a local expert on Royer, I mean, you could take one of the art nows, for example, and
Right.
that would probably be a lot more meaningful than a plaque. I would
Yeah,
guess.
especially in these days. I mean, I think people might respond better to something electronic than they would necessarily to a plaque anymore. So, yeah. So, anyway.
Who requested it from us?
Ilona, she was on the commission. She well, this would have been her last meeting. She's resigned. So, or
Yeah.
I guess she just opted not to
renew.
re-enlist. So, okay. Did we have anything we wanted to say about the Urbana Sculpture Project since PAL did not have their meeting?
I don't really have anything to say since they've postponed it, but if anyone has anything to add or ask.
Do you want to just tell them briefly how we usually do it?
Sure.
Since we've got a number of new members.
I've actually never done it before, so
Okay.
This will be my first sculpture project because it happens every 2 years, and I got here just after they selected the
Okay.
last sculptures
Well,
2 years ago.
one of someone from the commission. Usually, it would be the person in Pauline's position, but occasionally it's been me. Will sit in on the jury that determines what sculptures a PAL is going to consider, and then we kind of have a leg up on deciding which sculptures we want to put a bid in for. It's sort of like first come, first served when they finally open it to everyone and say, okay, whoever wants to pay either $1,500 or $2,000, is that right?
That's about right.
To rent it for a couple of years. You know, whoever steps up first gets it. So that's why you kind of have to be very quick. Sometimes we've missed ones that we wanted to have simply because we just got beat by somebody else. So.
And they are the Public Art League. It's a nonprofit,
Yeah.
I guess, based in
Sorry.
Champaign.
I've been here too long. I assume
and
everybody knows.
They're
Yeah.
a volunteer-based organization, and they've been doing this for a while. They've brought maybe 60-something sculptures, I want to say, to Champaign-Urbana. So the sculptures that we have here are mostly from our partnership with them, and they also have sculptures in Champaign as well.
Yeah, if you've seen the ones in downtown Champaign or in the park nearby, those are all through PAL.
Yeah,
So.
they're quite experienced at what they do. They do these calls every year, even though we only collaborate every 2 years.
So that's all. When we finally get a chance to see them and can let you know, either Pauline or I will be on the jury, so we'll know in advance. So, yeah.
I'll put in just a little bit on the sculpture because we've been interested in it for years, and the Meadowbrook Sculpture Park is such a nice one over there.
Oh, yeah.
And and they have such a variety of them. And so when I talk to the PAL people, I ask them why they don't have a little bit more of a variety. A lot of it is the aluminum. And that seems to be kind of a pattern for a lot of them. And so I asked them about that, and they said that the bronze ones, which people like me like the best, are just far too expensive anymore for public sculpture.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
you
bronze
know.
is
And
incredibly
so
expensive.
I think that has to be taken into consideration when we look at some of these pieces these days, you know, that the public is paying for, the grants or the whatever, private, you know, organizations. We have to take that into consideration, that sculptures are just so much more expensive these days than
Yeah.
they used to be.
They are.
And we have some very good sculptors in Champaign-Urbana, too.
Yeah, we do, and
And-
I would like to see us kind of maybe explore if we can make connections with some of those
Right.
sculptors.
Exactly. I definitely would like to have more Champaign-Urbana local sculptors
Yeah.
involved, too.
Yeah, I mean, I've even talked to some of them through Art Now, and I'm sure you know some of them as well. So.
Yeah,
Right.
I think some of them have their sculptures at Meadowbrook too. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what's so nice about it. And I think because we like to consider ourselves an art town, you know, and we appreciate, that's why we have our commission, because we appreciate all kinds of art here, you know.
Right.
But I'm always sort of putting in an extra plug for sculpture here, and so.
I know
just wanted-
that's your love.
That's why they asked me to be on the committee.
All right.
Since I'm leaving, I have to put my 2 cents in today.
All right.
So, thank you, Pat.
Okay, and on that note, as we're getting into announcements, I'd like to just say I want to thank both you and John for being a really integral part of this commission. You've helped us to create what I think is a great program, and we couldn't have done it without your efforts, both of you. I want to particularly thank both of you for volunteering to host Art Now, which is a scary thing to do. And I appreciate your stepping up to the plate. Ginny, I want to also thank you for being vice chair, and of course your part in art in the schools, and as you said, your love of sculpture, and that's really been helpful all the way through in guiding us. We're going to miss your contributions and your enthusiasm. John, we're going to miss your stories. And most of all, we're going to miss you.
Oh, thank you.
So thanks so much for all your service. Thank you.
Yes,
Don't
thank
be
you
strangers.
both.
No.
We've enjoyed it.
Great.
And
Would
we will
anyone
go
else like
to.
to say anything? Or? Okay. Well, on that note, did anybody have any other announcements they wanted to make?
I do have an announcement. So, as planned, we will go to Cranally after this, just to celebrate Ginny and John's service. Ilona unfortunately can't make it due to something that came up, but I hope you all can make it. I think everyone's gonna make it probably. So I'm looking forward to it. And also, starting next month, we'll have 2 new commissioners. They just recently got appointed by the mayor. Their names are Erica Cooper-Payton, who works at the Park District. She's the community programs coordinator at the Park District, so she's really used to coordinating family events and whatnot. And also, the other one is Rosalind Schwartz, who, thank you, John, for connecting her to us, but she used to teach at the university, and now she's just a practicing artist.
Great. Very good. Okay, on that note, I move that we adjourn. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
We are done.